dinner bus to journal onward by Master at Lamb, Chapter 55, A Lifetime of Promise. Blake went over all the details she could remember from the morning paper. The White Fang hideout that the police had raided and shut down after numerous reports of explosions and gunshots from civilians, as well as the trait left from the rampage of a giant robot and its remains under a huge pass of highways. It looked like none of the authorities had reported it being done by a group of students. Now that the citizens knew what the White Fang was up to, they were determined. They were demanding more searches. The police were more conscious of the White Fang's presence in Vale, and were doing more rounds to search for them. And they wouldn't be able to hold meetings like they did in that warehouse anymore. But there was still more to do. The White Fang might not be hanging around in city limits anymore, but they were still spread out over remnant. They could be hiding out in nearby towns of possible settlements that might have been abandoned, not to mention whatever Adam and Danzo were doing in the branches of other kingdoms, or this mysterious new party that was assisting them. She still had work to do. She still had so much left to fix. Yo, Blake, you in there? Hello? Her attention was brought back by Sun. The monkey was leaning over the lunch table, but dropped back in his seat beside Neptune as he spoke to her. I was saying that the next time you guys all go out, then you should totally invite us to come along. Neptune and I can totally hold our own. You remember seeing me fighting at the docks? I'm fast, I hit hard, I can kick a fair share of butt when I do too, and Neptune is just like that. Sorta. Wow, way to support your partner, dude. The blue-haired boy griped. Look, fellas, we get where you're coming from, Yang said with a smile. I bet you guys are super strong and you seem cool and everything. It's just there's normal people level of cool, and then there's a dirty dozen level of cool. The blonde empathized by staggering her hands. And I'm just not sure you guys are at that level yet. Yang snickered at their despondent expressions and her playful demeanor vanishing when she saw the stern glare on Weiss's face. The sneer hairs clenched the bridge of her nose before speaking. Yang, it's bad enough that ridiculous name exists on the internet and other people use it when they talk about Beacon, but I draw the line at referring to ourselves as that too. You know, I've been thinking, Ruby piped up from beside her partner with a smile. I'm actually kind of getting used to the name. It has its own kind of charm and really makes me feel like, oh yeah, that's us, we're the cool people they're talking about. Doesn't that make you feel all confident that we got a name to be called by? And Ruby shut her mouth the moment Weiss's frigid glare turned to her. The young leader hung her head in shame, hiding under her hood and mumbling that it was a dumb idea, and she never should have spoken up about it. Weiss nodded in agreement and turned back to Scarlet Yang as the brawler did her best not to succumb like her sister did. It was another day for Team Ruby to relish alongside the two ghosts, their two guests, another peaceful afternoon, but for Blake it just felt like another day waiting for the metaphorical ball to drop. She couldn't waste any more time sitting around as she had to get back to work. Blake, Yang asked, where are you going? Off to study. I wonder, Weiss inquired with some thinly veiled skepticism. Blake, Ruby called to her friend with some worry, and Blake sent them a look but showed the barest signs of a smile before she stepped from the table. Guys, Nutter came running through the cafeteria with a big smile on his face. As he approached the table, the whiskered boy had a massive grin and was bouncing on his feet before he spotted Blake. Blake, did you hear what's happening today? And she shook her head. I can't believe you don't know. Nutter was nearly bouncing on his feet as he pulled out his scroll and started typing away. He held up the screen for her to see. Look, the fifth book in the Tales series, Tales of the Redeemer. It comes out today. It did. Blake blinked in surprise as she read the article. Had she seriously lost track of the release while she was doing all that research? Uh-oh, nerd alert, Yang joked, making Ruby snort and Weiss giggle. Put some books in their sights and watch them crawl up into a ball. You read books, man. Sun's shoulders slumped with disappointment. Damn it, in here I thought I could make a dude friend that wasn't a total nerd for once. Intellectual. I told you, I'm an intellectual. Blake got me into books last semester. She told me to try reading this Tale series, and I got addicted fast. Naruto smiled. So Blake, you gonna pick it up, right? The cat funnest looked at the screen for a moment before flinching, her ears pointing up as she realized that she was lost staring. She shook her head and handed the device back to Naruto. Sorry, but I can't be bothered with it today. It's just a book. It can wait till later. They stared at her in utter disbelief. Even Sun and Neptune were bewildered because despite only knowing her for a few weeks, they were certain that the girl adored her books and the chance to read. The black-haired girl frowned. What? Blake, are you sick? Ruby jumped to her feet and appeared at her teammate's side in a rush of rose petals. She made to jump into Blake's arms, but the quiet girl dodged it with a shadow to replace the sweet but ridiculous tight hug. Ruby tumbled but turned to look up at her in a panic. You must have a fever. I bet you're seeing doubles of each of us. How many fingers am I holding up? Who's your emergency contact? Am I your emergency contact? Don't go into the light. Ruby, I don't see a light and I'm not sick. She held the terrified girl down with a palm on her shoulders. I just have more important matters to attend to. Hey Naruto, you should go find that book with Blake. Huh? Before Blake knew it, her partner was by her side with a firm hand around her shoulder and leading her towards the cafeteria exit. She couldn't even pull herself from Yang's tight grasp as Naruto followed by their side with a smile. Yang smirked. Your book came out today, Blake. You need to go out and do some shopping. Yang pushed Blake up to the exit and Naruto followed her. See you two lovebirds later, she said in a sing-song voice while Blake lowered back at her before reluctantly stomping off. Yang gleefully stepped back over to the table and smiled cheekily. It's cute that she thinks she can play hard. The blue-haired intellectual placed a hand on his partner's shoulder and sighed sympathetically. Sorry, son, I hate seeing you try so hard when the deck is stacked against you. Neptune, you're not helping. Hunting. We're spending the entire afternoon out looking for a bookstore so we can browse some new and old books before picking up the new installment of one of your favorite series. Even if I'm tagging along, you would have been jumping with joy, ears dancing on top of your head, and acting like you just got a lifetime supply of tuna dropped at your door. So why are you pouting? Blake coughed and turned back to focus her annoyed stare at him. She sighed when he flinched. First off, I've never jumped for joy about anything. Neither have I let my ears dance on my head. And stop with tuna jokes. And most importantly, I'm not pouting. She made sure to emphasize each word to get her point across. Naruto seemed wary of setting her off, but he certainly didn't look convinced. She scowled. You still think I'm pouting, don't you? I mean, do you not need evidence? Do you need a mirror? Stop trying to melt me with your eyes. Blake's hair wiped about as she turned around sharply and walked down the street again. Naruto seemed to understand her reluctance to talk anymore and jogged up to walk by her side. She didn't want to be out shopping when she could be doing some research, but if she went back too soon, then Blake and the others would never get off her back. Better to wait it off for now until she could get back. I know you're not thrilled with me tagging along, but I kinda enjoy it. Naruto chuckled. It'll be just like old days, like when we went to the library. Blake rolled her eyes and looked up to the boy by her side before her eyes panned up to his head, his fluffy ears twitching in his hair, and she could now notice that some of the people they passed while walking down the street sent him wary or undesirable looks that she had grown very tired of a long time ago. And she looked down. Not everything is like before. What do you mean? She looked up at his head, and he quickly patted his hair down before realizing what she was talking about. Oh yeah, I guess that is different. I still forgot sometimes that I'm not even wearing my bandana anymore. He scratched his head and his ears twitched again. It feels nice to let the wind go through them again. I haven't gotten the chance to ask you, but have things okay since you removed the bandana? Have you had to do with anyone's unforgivable reactions? If you're asking me if anyone's been looking at me differently, then yes. Naruto's smile fell a little as he continued ahead. Some of the other students I used to say hi to in class and the hallway don't even interact with me anymore, and I notice some of the looks I get walking out here too. But that's just a small margin of people. You know what's funny? Naruto laughed as he turned to his companion. I actually ran into Karin the first week back from break. He looked me over before telling me he didn't like me way before I started showing off my ears. Is that supposed to be inspiring? Blake questioned with an amused smile. Because it still sounds like he's being an unbearable jerk. And some things are hardwired, but that's still better than before. Hating someone for who they are and not what they are, that's going to be a step in the right direction. You're just laughing, so I'm taking that as a yes. Blake couldn't suppress her laughter much longer, despite trying to hide it behind her hand. That was a very backwards way of seeing acceptance, but she had to admit the way he said candidate with so much hope made her laugh. She let a small smile take her face as they turned the corner. You know, there's a part of me that was worried you wouldn't want to talk to me anymore. And why would that part ever think that? Because you took your disguise off, but I still kept mine on. And she saw his eyes look up towards her bow. He looked back down at her for and further explanation. I would have thought you demanded, since you took off your disguise, that I should take mine off too. I was a little worried you'd be upset. Doesn't mean we have to be at odds or anything. Not to say that you wear yours because you want people to see you for who you are, not what you are. I wear mine because I was hiding, and I decided to hide away everything that reminded me of my past and what I did. But I can't just forget it or run away from it. So there's no point in me hiding it anymore. He stopped and smiled at her. I had my reason to wear it and my reason to take it off. You have your reasons, and I hope maybe someday you'll have one to take your bow off too. But until then, I'm not going to treat you any differently. Blake sighed. There are probably a number of faunists that don't share that opinion. Well, fortunately, you know some faunists who do. He smirked. Aren't you lucky? Yes, I suppose I am. Blake said under her breath, but she was sure Naruto had heard her. When that day comes, remind me to take picture with your ears. That'd be your new profile pic. Don't push it. They came up to a bookstore and walked in to see only a few people pursuing the rows and aisles of books. Blake was able to step in before she noticed the owner sending a spiteful glare towards them the moment they walked in. However, it wasn't at them, but specifically the blonde boy at her side. Naruto seemed to notice this and looked uncomfortable with the stares he was getting. She saw the sad smile on his face that said he was going to wait outside, but she grabbed his arm and walked out with him. Come on, she pulled him in another direction. We might not always be lucky, but we stick together. Blake scowled as she stomped down the sidewalk with Naruto being pulled behind her. Once they had rounded enough corners with the bookstore out of sight, Blake finally let go of his sleeve, only to glare at the ground. It's infuriating to still see responses like that. Yeah, I've noticed stuff like that happening more often since I changed my look. Naruto admitted it. Really haven't missed that part of the whole deal, but you take the good with the bad. Being able to walk around as yourself shouldn't be a good. It should be a normal, and being looked at like that is so much worse than bad. Blake growled, but before she could lose her temper, and she covered her mouth with her hand inside into it. Her form eased a little, but her face was still twisted with irritation. I hate feeling like this still. It's not even me, but just watching someone look at you like that makes my back roll. I know you hate it, but we're done with that place. Screw that guy and his store. And Blake's frown deepened before looking up from the sidewalk to see him smirk. Plus, don't forget what you said. We might not always be lucky, but we stick together. That was cute. Blake glared at him balefully as he chuckled. He continued to do so before it tapered off, and he showed her a genuinely thankful expression. Thanks for sticking by me. It's fine. Come on, let's keep looking. Blake just focused on traversing the city for another bookstore. Maybe reading would get her mind off of how annoying she was. Can I ask you a question? She silently nodded to his request. What was it like for you while you were in the White Fang? I mean, I told you a lot about what happened to me while I was still a part of it. I was just wondering if it's too much of a sore subject. Then I won't push. It is a sore subject, Blake said, but stopped before turning around with complicated expression on her face. But you're right. You've been very transparent with us about your time with the White Fang. That's me. Naruto stepped forward with a hand in his chest. I want to do that. That doesn't mean you have to. No, I do. Blake interrupted, and Naruto had to spare a few details of her team, and shared only about her escape from the White Fang after her attack on the train. At first, she had tried to avoid talking about anything she did during her time with them as much as possible, but now that she was actively searching for them, her memories were coming back to her back at full force, and if she was going to start sharing them with someone, why not someone who could understand her position? Most of my time with White Fang, I was working with my partner, Adam Torse, that Adam. Naruto's expression came more and more shocked before she simply nodded in response. The shock remained, and he stumbled back before regaining his balance. Holy shit, I didn't think you would know a guy like that, let alone work by his side. I didn't even think he wanted a partner. He always struck me more as a solo, get in my way and you get cut kind of guy. He was, but on the few chances they properly worked together, they were a team to be reckoned with. The initial shock was gone, but Naruto still looked startled by that revelation. So then, what was he like? What was it like working with him? He was strict and unwavering, but passionate towards the cause. I think he had experienced some of the worst things people have to offer, and that molded his perspective. I followed him through so much while I wore that mask. Blake thought to all the missions that she carried out while watching his back stride in front of her. I felt more confident by his side, not watched her. I didn't know that. I only knew him as the scary, terrified leader. I thought he was. Blake clarified. He was that by the end. By the time I left, he was no longer the man I remembered, whose aim it was to help the Faunus. Before I knew it, he was more devoted to hurting humans and fighting than he was equality. She pulled her hair away from her eyes. I thought he had changed, but maybe I was just seeing his true colors for once. I can't imagine his views on humans who were too kind, considering he grew up under Danzo's guidance for most of his life. Like my mother, he murmured, but it was still enough for Blake to hear and choke on her tongue. She realized what she had implied and wanted to apologize when she saw the look on his face. Before she could, Naruto smiled sadly. My mom used to tell me that when she was growing up, she hated humans, how she was raised, and what she experienced that made her wary of trusting them or interacting with them. Until your father, I'm guessing. I think he helped. The fox gave a small chuckle before shaking his head, but I think the reason she could fall in love with him was because he didn't let Danzo's training and influence be the only thing that defined her. Even if she stayed behind, Naruto refused to believe it was because she enjoyed what the White Fang did in any capacity. Whatever it was that bastard had over her, it was never going to be enough to turn his mother into a monster like everyone thought. Naruto took a deep breath and gave a firm nod in his belief in his mother. He turned back around in time to see Blake hide her expression from him. Before he could ask her what was wrong, the black-haired faunus had already started back down the street to their next destination. Follow me. I think I know the perfect store to find the rest of our books. Hunting. Blake couldn't find her voice when they had finally arrived at the destination. This was the one bookstore she favored most in all the Vale. Almost every book imaginable between the numerous and vast shelves that covered each wall in rows of shelves. Being able to browse all the tomes she could get her hands on, even if the owner did call her out for it. She spent a lot of time reading the books from this place. Did this place look like this the last time you were here? No. She could plainly see that there were no closed signs or police tapes over the door the last time she had come to Tusk. Blake hesitantly stepped forward before dashing for the window and trying to peer in. She could barely see through the shaded windows, but could just make out that the shelves were empty of all their contents now. How did this happen? Blake pulled out her scroll and immediately started to type in its name. When several articles appeared, her shoulders fell as she read the words. Local store owner killed in failed robbery. Police still search for suspects. The faunus lowered her phone and stared at the storefront. How could this happen? How could I not know about it? But because she hadn't come down here since the end of the last semester, because she hadn't bothered reading anything that didn't pertain to the White Faunus or Room Torchwick, because you have taken a break in so long. Blake pocketed her scroll and walked away from the closed door with a frown that twisted her face. Not this again. She didn't want to bring up the sore subject, but Naruto was quick to follow her. That your reaction like that means you know where I'm going with this. Yes, I do. I know, because it's the same thing Yang brings up, that Wise not so subtly hints at, that Ruby tries to talk to me about, that all of you are looking at me for. The frustrated cat turned her furious stare on him. I'm working to try and find out what the White Things are doing, what Torchwick is planning, what the noble guards are capable of doing. I'm doing this to help. I know you are. I'd never say you weren't doing this for a good cause or to help us. Blake's angry expression calmed for a moment, but kept her accuracy clear on Naruto. He faced her. You found the White Fang hideout. You helped to bring it down and rob that asshole and get leader of one of the Adlesian mechs. That was because of you. Your hard work and effort helped us. Blake was wary, expecting another shift in the conversation to turn it around on her, but for a moment she was grateful to have someone thank her. She wasn't solely doing it for the appreciation or thanks, but she was relieved that he could see that even if it was a lot of hard work, that it was for the benefit of stopping their enemy. The black-haired hunters took a deep breath and nodded. After that fight at the warehouse, I did some more research on the noble guards. I won't know who they are, but I do know more about them. How did you do that? From the Majesty's Menagerie children's book, I found out that the copy translated after the war had more information than the original versions, kind of like warnings about monsters under your bed. And what did they say? Beware the monsters and majesties that threaten the world, the majesty that shatters and scatters the ground, the majesty that raises infernos from embers, the majesty that twists the tides, the majesty that burns and bubbles the rock, the majesty that boils and topples mountains, the majesty that warps the air you breathe, the majesty that weaves tempest at will, the majesty that splits and strikes the sky, and the majesty that bends and changes before your eye. Face these foes and know no peace. The people that translated the Noble Guard story added that as a warning. It sounded like they were terrified of what those phonies could do. So there are 9 of them, maybe. Blake responded, that's not taking into account the number of families or siblings and offspring. There could be many more than that. But there were 9 to start with, and that's where the legend comes from. She crossed her arms. The way the steam came off of the man at the docks and the power behind his punches makes me think he's the 5th one from the passage. What about me and my mom? I'm not sure. In order to check, you would have to use your semblance. But I'm guessing you aren't jumping at the chance to do that. Right? Doctor sheepishly looked at the side before she shook her head, and then we won't know until you can control it. Right? He nodded defendedly before his eyes hardened. But you're going after so much. The White Fang, Torchwick, the Noble Guards, the police reports, anything and everything you think might be related to your search. You've covered it, and you might be stretching yourself too thin. I'm not. Blake defended. I can handle this. I promise I won't get overwhelmed. Yeah, but you don't have to push yourself. Naruto stepped in front of her before she could storm off again. Amber eyes glared up in blue as he raised his arm out to block her. The White Fang aren't going anywhere. Torchwick still needs time to do whatever it is he's planning. You don't know that. The police and hunters have their sights on him. He can't be so cocky around here anymore. The blonde boy lowered his arms to his side. We dealt a blow. You don't have to push yourself like this. Yes, I do, because I don't know when Danzo will decide to make his move or when Adam will strike, and that's not all. Blake's expression shifted, going from anger and annoyed to concern and sympathetic. I remember when I partnered with Adam that he told me stories about the training and conditions he went through, the same thing your mother went through too. The stern, unwavering edge in the blonde's eyes quickly shifted into one of clear worry at the mention of his mother. She felt guilty for bringing it up, but it was something he needed to know. He gave her his full attention as Blake continued. Danzo used to take Adam out in areas infested with Grim and have him fight them off endlessly. Even when he was outnumbered and calling for Danzo's help, he would just stand off to the side and watch him being attacked. Adam had to kill them all in order to escape before the day would be called to a halt. And during that training, Danzo would also utilize a form of conditioning with stimuli and response. Adam told me the few times he lashed out in anger at Danzo, he would merely tap a rhythm and Adam's body would freeze. He told me it was like that. It was like at that moment his body would be racked with fear and freeze, reminding him of when he was overwhelmed by Grim or being surrounded by enemies out for blood. He'd be immobilized and wouldn't be released until Danzo stopped. Blake didn't bring it up, but she was sure now to realize that was what happened to his mother in the story he told her. And so in the cafe, her eyes lowered. He doesn't treat them like people. They're his soldiers, expendable tools. And I'm so focused because I know a man like that won't stop at trying to fight hunters and upheave the schools like Torchwick said. He's out for blood, and if we wait too long, I don't know what he'll do with your mother. Naruto turned around and walked down the sidewalk away from her. Blake was concerned that she had gone too far before she saw him look back and wave her over. Come on, there might be one last place to look. Hunting. And what exactly did you hear about this place? Ruby, she told me this was the place she was at the night she was accepted by Beacon. Naruto continued to search the books and magazines that filled the back from dusk till dawn in search of the newest Tale book. Unfortunately, the pickings were scarce between the most recent celebrity gossip, some web magazines, and the creepy magazine just called Truth. Naruto glowered as he looked through the books again. It has to be here somewhere, anywhere. Blake leaned against the shelf and watched him search the stands for any sign of the book. She was still a little miffed about where the conversation had been going earlier, but she was impressed by how eagerly he was searching for his objective. She smiled in amusement. Why are you still looking for it? Not too long ago, you would have given up on ever going going so far for a book. Yeah, I get it. You got me into books. You passed on the addiction. Stop rubbing it in. You're the one. You're the one always bring it up. Blake could tell her furtive smile irked Naruto as he huffed and went back to browsing. But you seriously don't have to go this far just to find me a book. It's not just for you. I need to find more books I can enjoy. I want to find enough great ones that I can fill the bookshelf with the ones I've read. Naruto grinned. I got it on my list. Your list, bucket list, things I want to do before I die. I wrote one up while I was on break. Really, that's a bit more. That's a bit morbid, don't you think? Shouldn't you only write one up when you're close to death? I was close to death. Remember? Blake swallowed her tongue when she remembered his near-death experience not long ago. The memories of visiting him with Ruby and Yang and seeing how drained he was, just staying awake. But Naruto didn't seem bothered in the least as he looked up at her. I got a few things on there already. Read more books, graduate beacon, learn an instrument, spend a year as a huntsman in every kingdom, visit menagerie, learn more cooking techniques from around the world. That's more tame than I expected from you. Blake laughed. I expected something like climbing onto the top of a mountain and then gliding down to land on the back of an Ursa and riding into the sunset. Well, that sounds ridiculous and something Noah would probably do, but now I kind of want to do that too. Naruto huffed with annoyance and stood back up before stretching out his back. I also have starting a family and having sex and getting a girlfriend and getting a kiss. He turned and saw the surprised look on Blake's face. His whisker cheek took a pink hue. What? I've never kissed anyone before. So what? Just it's surprising is all. It's really not. I wasn't very purpose as a kid. I spent 2 years wearing a mask, and then 2 years after that stealing with Sasuke. Who was I gonna kiss during that time? No. Before she could make the obvious joke at his expense, he glared and shook his head. I know what you were about to say, and no. All right then. She laughed before her curiosity piqued. Anything else on that list? Yep, he nodded. The most important thing and the one thing I'm going to make happen no matter what, find my mom, bring her home, and let her see Dad again. If he was expecting to see shock on her face, then he wasn't going to get it. She knew from the way he spoke so fondly of her that his mother was never far from his thoughts, and if he was going to join her fight against the White Fang, then finding Kushina someday was a possibility he had to consider. It was both admirable and sad because Blake knew even if he did find her again, the reunion would be bittersweet. Kushina had a stigma placed on her by Danzo, a figurehead for fear to be associated to all the awful things the White Fang had done recently. No matter how hard he tried, Blake doubted Naruto would ever be able to free her of that. Naruto read that. She's still being mentioned in the news even now. Danzo needs her as a noble guard and leader of the White Fang to rally other foreigners to the cause. She's important to them, which means she's still alive. Blake saw his fist clench so tightly his arms started trembling. And what you said earlier about Danzo's conditioning might be true, but she's strong. She can endure it until I can find her, and I will find her. I stepped up to her, and Blake saw determination in his eyes as he spoke. So you aren't the only one dying to find them. I'll do everything I can to help you with the search. Her eyes widened as he spoke. Searching places or even helping with the workload, ask me and I'll be there to help you find them. I know I can't stop you looking, and so instead I'll do whatever I can to carry the weight for you. She blinked, stunned silently as he smiled. I promise we'll stop them, Blake. She chuckled under her breath and shook her head. You know, it involves reading a lot of boring books, right? Don't push yourself. Don't underestimate me. He grinned as he laughed harder. Naruto looked to the side and over the aisles as something got his attention. Blake watched Naruto run out from the shelves and towards the front desk. She saw him talking with the old shop owner before the wrinkled old man hummed happily and reached behind the counter. He pulled up an open box for the fox to see. Naruto peeked in and smiled before reaching in and showing her what he pulled out. Found it! A green hardbook back, the last copy of the newest Tales book. Before she could react, Naruto bought it for himself. The bookkeeper took his lead and thanked him for his service. Before Naruto strode up to her with a huge grin, I got it. This whole day we spent looking for that book, and the first chance you get, you just steal the book for yourself. Not even a debate between the two of us. Her voice was grumpy and irritated, and she was glad it came through. She had hoped there would be a copy for both of them, and if there was only one, then they would decide decide between them who would get it, but no, he stole it for himself. She wanted it so bad. Sure, this may have started off as just a temporary reprieve from her appointed work, but after a full day of looking around, she wanted some payoff. Damn it! First come, first served. Blake scowled and crossed her arms, and I was so impressed by what you said about helping me earlier. That is that. This is this. He gave a huge grin as Blake narrowed her eyes and pouted, and there was no argument from her at this time that it was a pout. She knew it was childish and immature, but if he wanted to play those kinds of games, then he was getting those kinds of results. Before she could be any more peeved, she found the green book offered to her. Here, you read it first. Blake looked down at the book before looking back at him. Naruto just shrugged and smiled at her confusion. You've already done most of the hard work, so much you didn't even realize the new book came out. So how about you take some time and read it? I'll try to pick up the slack while you do. I'm not sure if I can trust you with all the hard work I've done. She joked, and they both chuckled as they took the book he offered and held it under her arm. Blake looked up at Naruto and smiled. Thank you for helping me with this. No problem. Just make sure you read that book fast, okay? I want to get to it next. I'll do my best. Although it was probably for the best that I read it first. You still read slower than Ruby coming down from a sugar rush. Oh, come on. Is that any way to treat a friend? The two of them laughed at the joke for a moment before they stopped. They looked at each other for a moment in silence, forgetting that the old shop owner was standing just to the side. I'm not kissing you. Naruto blank. What? Getting a kiss? That was on your list, but it just seems too cliche for you to tell me that, and then I give you one as thanks for lending me the book. Blake spoke matter-of-factly, so don't expect one. I didn't even suggest it. That's good. She nodded and turned on her heel to walk out the door. Don't go thinking about it again. I didn't in the first place. You were the one. I never. You really know how to ruin a good moment, don't you, Blake? The cheery smile came to the cat fauness's face as she hid from Naruto's indignant yelling, and there was nothing wrong with a little jabbing in return for him stealing the last book. They were friends, but that didn't mean she couldn't be a little vindictive as well, and that was as something Yang was going to find out when she got back to the dorm. Extra gaming session part 2. Ren, now the next step is you got to swirl the pancake around in the pan until it is golden brown. There you go. Now you're cooking with Mama. Wow, I didn't think it was possible to get 999,999 points on a single stack of pancakes. I've had practice. Ren said with his full attention on every minuscule movement on the screen as he prepared the virtual food. Lots and lots of practice. Boo, stupid game. You can't let Ren make the pancakes how he does it. No wind. Total immersion break. 0 out of 10. Boo. Kiba. Okay, that's good so far. Kiba moved his character to the other group of color animals sitting in the plains. Now, I need to heal their injuries next and make sure they aren't hungry. Oh, looks like some of them are interested in each other. Well, they need to be properly prepared and checked for any problems. Kiba, Ruby jumped from the bed and started shaking the older boy violently. You're supposed to be capturing them and making them fight each other. Stop pampering and breeding them. Make them fight my battles. Force these innocent creatures to hurt each other like that so cruelly. You're monsters. You're all monsters. Naruto, sneaky, gonna find the super dust bomb that could level the whole kingdom and send it spiraling back into ancient times. Must be sneaky. I don't get it. Yang scratched her head as she sat beside her friend and watched him sneak around the facility. Ruby watched on in amazement while the others were confused by what they were seeing. Sasuke played a ninja game and that was all just cutting people apart. How is this game more stealthy than a ninja game? Naruto smirked. Don't have to be a ninja to be super awesome. Does there have to be so many fourth wall breaks? Why screeched him. You don't understand. This game is brilliant and nuanced and a masterpiece. Blake sighed. Did you just hide under a cardboard box? A masterpiece! Tintin, make that one next. That one. Ruby was leaning on the bunny-haired girl's back and pointing at the screen in intensity. That armor has the most buffs and defenses proportions. Patience, Ruby, patience. The older girl smiled wickedly. We're going up against a monster soon. We have to be prepared. So why forge just one suit of armor and weaponry when we can forge them all? Ruby shook with joy. That sounds awesome. Do you need all the supplies? I shall get them all. I shall be the greatest blacksmith in the land. I thought she picked mage when this started. I don't know. This was so long ago I lost track. Sasuke mumbled as he looked around to see everyone besides Pyrrha had passed out from exhaustion. He rubbed his eyes. Weren't they just supposed to go kill a slime or something? I believe they were supposed to. The champion solemnly shook her head, but the timer ran out, so they're probably just boned now. Ruby, look at that break resistance. Oh, it's the best. Blake, Weiss crossed her arms. I'll be honest, considering this game revolved around romanticizing thievery and that he and Sasuke had to suffer as thieves for so long, I thought he would be more reluctant to watching her play this. Well, you forget not all of the game is stealing stuff. A lot of it is living a life, hanging with friends, and starting relationships. For example, Blake, pick her. She's cool and smart, but awkward too. She's obviously best waifu. Not yelled on one side of Blake. No, she's so much cuter. Look at the way her ears dip down when she's embarrassed talking to you. Plus, she admires you like an older brother. She's the best. Tintin argued. I can't concentrate with you both yelling at me. Blake argued, raising her voice and snapped back at the two before returning to the dilemma at hand. I didn't mean to lead them both on, but they were just so cute. I lost myself. The older girl likes books. You like books. Plus, she's scared of ghosts in the dark. That's cute as hell. Pick her. I thought you'd be on my side, Naruto. Tintin crossed her arms and smiled cheekily. Considering your fondness for the cute girl with ears, Blake paused the game. Say what? Oh no, my scroll. It's going off. I have to take this. It wasn't. I'm taking this outside. Naruto jumped out the window and fell several stories. Tintin, I'm never gonna forgive you. Now my legs. Why, God? Why? Pyrrha. Weiss had stormed off in anger. Blake was curled up in a ball. Yang had gone to the gym to work out all her anger. Ruby was cowering in bed. Sasuke was unresponsive. Kiba was punching the floor. Tenten tried to stop her frustrated tears, but they fell anyways. Nora cradled a traumatized Ren. John shook his head in horror as Naruto nearly broke the controller in his hands. How can you play this? What do you mean? Pure innocently asked. I just think it's a fun game, and I thought you'd all enjoy it. This is not a game. This is torture. Oh, come on. It's still not that bad. Pure, we haven't even been able to beat a single boss. John whimpered. We were sliced in half, sideways and vertical, burned alive, devoured. We even had our faces punched through our buttholes. I'm sorry, I had fun beating this game the first few times before. It just got to be repetitive. I didn't think you would find the first fight that hard. Help us, please help. Pyrrha, help. They all got on their knees and begged the champion for her help. Pyrrha found herself embarrassed at the attention she was getting. The flustered girl snapped her fingers. Oh, I do have some advice. The same I got from the retailer when about the game. Yes, they were hanging off every word. Get a good scrub. No one at Beacon or any of the visiting schools asked why there were so many overlapping screams for the rest of the day, and also knew not to question the gaming system that went flying across the campus. End of chapter 55.